Everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm super excited to share with all of you my top luxury lip products. So recently I've been really into luxury lippies because I've been much more simplistic with my makeup looks lately, especially with a toddler. I usually am just slapping on makeup in front of the mirror and don't really have time for brushes or anything. And so it's really nice to just have a really nice lip product to just brighten up and make the look, especially if I'm not able to do eyeshadow. And so I've been really getting into a bunch of different formulas, and I thought today would be a really fun time to just do a roundup of the products I've been enjoying the most. I have around 13 formulas on my table today to go through with you all. Some of these are really new to my collection, some I've been accumulating many different shades of over the past several years. But if you guys are interested in learning more about which lip products I've been loving, then just stick around. So first off, just to give you guys a bit more context about what I'm looking for in a luxury lip product. So first and foremost is formulation. And I'm someone who has pretty dry lips. I pretty much always need to have something hydrating on my lips, and so you won't see any matte formulas in this video. If you're curious about matte lipsticks, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll film a separate video. But to be honest, in terms of what I actually use, I pretty much never use matte lip products, so none of them have made it to today's ranking video. So what I'm looking for in terms of formulation is a product that is really nice and hydrating on my super dry lips, doesn't dry them out over the course of the day, has lasting color because I'm not someone who actually brings my lipstick with me to reapply during the day. And so I really like products where I can just apply it once and it lasts for hours without any touch-ups. Also, I'm looking for a luxury experience. So for me, that's for one, the packaging. It should be sleek, it should be beautiful. If I'm paying a luxury price tag, I anticipate there should be something luxurious with the packaging. Personally, I'm pretty on the fence about luxury scents in lip products. I don't mind them, but I also don't like them. And so you'll see these products kind of span the gamut from having really strong fragrances to not really having much at all. Personally, my ideal is just having a little bit of flavor, but not like any scent or perfume in it. But like I said, I also don't mind it that much. And so you'll see products that have stronger fragrances, but are pretty high up in the rankings. Also, I should note that even though I call this a ranking, it's really roughly ranked. Anything that's made it to this list is something that I really enjoy. I have a pretty large lip product collection, and so anything that's in this top list is really something I would recommend. And I'll try in today's video to really talk about the formulas so you can see why I like some of them over others, even if the ranking itself is pretty rough. So without further ado, let's get into these lip products. So starting at the lower end of the list, we have this lipstick from Isamaya. This is the LuckyKiss Diamond Lip Glow in the shade Bluff. You can see here it's a reddish rosy shade with pretty strong gold reflect to it. And so what I love about this formula is that it looks so pretty on the lips. So every time I've worn this, somebody has asked me what's on my lips because it just has a really beautiful reflectivity to it that makes your lips look so juicy and plump. Also, even though it's very metallic, it doesn't really give off a metallic lip look. It just looks like your lips have like some gold sheen to it and are really nicely hydrated. Now, the actual formula itself, I would say, is not the most hydrating. So it's more about the appearance of hydration than actual hydration. Also, if you're someone who really doesn't like any form of grittiness, then I would say, this is maybe not the best because it does have really high shimmer content. So especially the first few times I wore this, I did feel a little bit of grittiness on the lips, but what converted me was really the appearance. I do think this is one of the most beautiful in terms of how it makes my lips look and how other people react to the lip look. And in addition, I do like this packaging as well. Now, it's not going to be the most heavy and luxurious compared to some of the other ones, but it does have a nice magnetized enclosure, and it does have this cool horse, which makes it a nice piece to display as well. So it definitely gives that sort of special packaging vibe, even if it's not the heaviest packaging. Next up, we have this Phyto-Rouge Shine lipstick from Sisley. This is in the shade Sheer Rosewood, which you can see is a beautiful rose shade and also has some shimmer content in it. I picked this up in the special lily packaging. And I have to admit, I picked this up mainly for the packaging, so I just found this to be so pretty, and I've heard really great things about Sisley lip products, and so I figured I would give it a shot, and I'm very glad that I did. This is now one of my most used lip balm types of products. And actually, before I go on, I should be giving you guys swatches. Sorry about that. So let me swatch the previous shade for you so you can see it has that sort of bright pink quality to it with that really pretty gold shimmer in it as well. Maybe you can already see what I was talking about in terms of just how hydrated it looks on the skin. And then for this shade, it is kind of more sheer initially, but does build up nicely as well. I would compare this formula to the Chantecaille lip cheeks, which are actually coming up later in today's video. So this provides some degree of pigmentation, but definitely can either be quite sheer or build up for more of a medium to full opacity. It feels kind of like a lip mask on the lips, so it's not something that will just fade immediately. It has a little bit of stick and tack to it, so it will stay on the lips and hydrate. It's definitely a lot more hydrating than the previous formula, even though the previous one maybe looks more hydrating on the skin. I would say with this formula, the only things I don't like about it are it has a pretty strong perfume scent to it. That's probably the biggest difference between this and the Chantecaille lip cheeks. And then the shimmer particles in it do give it a little bit of grittiness. Not as much as the Isamaya, so I think it's still fine overall. And to be clear, neither of them are like problematically gritty. But, you know, if you're someone who normally doesn't wear lip products that have any shimmer in them, you might notice that additional texture a bit when you rub your lips together. But personally, I have been wearing this a lot whenever I'm just not wearing any other makeup and just want to put something on my face to give my face a little bit more life to it. This has been a really perfect my lips but better color for me, and really nice and hydrating as well. Next up, we have the famous Dior Lip Oil. I have this in the shade Mahogany. So this is a very thick lip oil. You can see that even though it looks pretty deep in the container, it's actually quite sheer. On the lips though, this does provide a little bit more pigmentation than what you would see in the swatch, because it does have that pH changing effect. So imagine this plus just a little bit more pinkiness. So a while back I did a video comparing this formula with the Clarins lip oil, and at the time I kind of liked both of them. I felt like they sort of had their own pros and cons. But over time, I've really fallen in love with this one in particular, and I use it way, way more than the Clarins. So this lip oil is just really, really thick and hydrating on the lips. And so for someone like myself with really dry lips, it's perfect. I find most lip oils, including the Clarins, kind of fades really quickly because they're very thin formulas that once like the top layer is removed, it's just gone from your lips. This though, because it's very thick, usually there's still going to be some residue on your lips, and so it just keeps it hydrated for much longer and doesn't need as much reapplication. In addition, I prefer the scent slash smell to this. It's a little bit like a minty vanilla, so much more food-like, whereas I find the Clarins has a bit more of like kind of a cloyingly sweet flavor to it, a bit more like candy. So I guess technically both food, but this one a little bit more palatable in my opinion. I also do like the pH changing property just because I think it gives more dimensionality to the look and has the pigmentation last a little bit longer compared to just the normal lip oil that just is that sheer pigment but no pH changing property. So on the whole, I really love this product. This is like the one lip oil in today's video, and so if you have similar preferences to me, this is definitely the one that I would recommend. Next up, we have a collection. So this is the Satin Kissing Lipstick Formula from Charlotte Tilbury. This is actually not all of the ones I have. I have a few more as well, but these are the ones that fit on this cute little stand that I keep on my vanity. So I'll swatch a few of these for you guys. This is the shade Glowing Gen. This is probably my favorite shade. It's like the best my lips but better shade for me that works on any occasions. You can see that this formula is very different from the previous one. It's full pigment on one swipe. It's a satin finish rather than a glowy or glossy finish. But I find that this is just such a perfect lipstick for someone with dry lips. So one thing that Charlotte Tilbury really emphasizes with this lipstick, and that I honestly didn't really believe when I first heard it, is that it fills in your lip lines. I feel like that's something a lot of lipsticks claim to do, but normally don't. But I actually believe it with this one. I feel like it actually does a really good job of de-emphasizing or filling in my lip lines and just making my lips look really nice and plump. And so that's something that's always really impressed me about this lipstick. In addition, it's just super, super comfortable on the lips. So I feel like not all satin lipsticks are the same, even though they're all meant to be reasonably comfortable on the lips. This is one that actually feels super comfortable throughout the day. It also has decent lasting power, even though it has that level of comfort. So on the whole, this is definitely one of my OG favorites when it comes to satin lipsticks. And as you can see, I have quite a lot of shades. So just running through the shades, this was Glowing Gen, this is Pillow Talk Intense, this is Sweet Blossom, this is Rosy Seduction, Stoned Rose, and Nude Romance. Now, given all these glowing things I said, you might be wondering, why is this not higher up in the list? So the main thing I dislike about this formula is it's definitely a formula that kind of slips and slides a bit. So I always need to be checking my teeth when I wear this lipstick, especially if I'm talking a lot, it's always gonna get on my lips. So that's the one thing I'm not a huge fan of with this lipstick. I mean, that can be mitigated by blotting it and like using, the finger in the mouth method. But with some of the other lipsticks, I feel like I just don't even have to worry about that. So that is the one downside. Also, even though the packaging is really beautiful, especially this limited edition packaging that she has, there are some of the other lipsticks upcoming in today's video that just have nicer packaging. So those are the only reasons it's not higher on the list, but still overall one of my favorite formulas. Next up, we have two products from Kogan Do. So I wasn't actually sure whether to include Kogan Do in this luxury video because I feel like depending on where you buy it, the prices vary a lot. In Japan, Kogan Do I feel like is more like, mid-range to high-end, but in the US, like if you buy from their US website, the prices are super steep. In any case, though, Kogan Do is one of my favorite makeup brands, full stop. I absolutely love their complexion products, their skincare, and their lip products. And so I did want to talk about these two today. First, we have this liquid lipstick lip gloss combo. This is in the shade 1, which for me is just a perfect everyday shade. You can see it has pretty good pigmentation just on one swipe. And this has been my favorite kind of go-to lip product on an everyday basis. It leaves overall a satin finish, so it's not going to be high shine. So really great for any sort of everyday look. The shade itself is really perfect for my lip tone. And I find that it's super, super comfortable and hydrating on the lips. It's also not sticky at all. So with a lot of the other products I talk about today, part of how they stay on the lips and are hydrating is by having stickiness, but not at all with this one. So even though the packaging is not the most luxurious, I feel like this is one that I go for probably close to the most among all of these lip products, and so would highly, highly recommend this. Next, we have their lip gloss in the shade RD2. I think this is maybe like Red Berry or something. And this was my first Kogan Do lip product and one that really, really impressed me and blew my socks off. So you can probably see just from the swatch, it is very pigmented and very high shine. So this is not your like everyday like lip gloss that's just, super chill that you quickly slap on. This is very serious and I love this. I think this is just perfect for so many different looks, especially if you want something glam but really comfortable. So I find that I use this a lot, especially like in the winter or holiday season time when like having maybe like a gold eyeshadow and a red lip is one of my go-tos. And the pigmentation on this is just so perfect for those glam looks, but it's so comfortable, just like one of the most comfortable lip products that I've ever tried. And it does also have really good staying power considering how comfortable it is. I would say the only downside about this is it does have a tiny bit of thickness and stickiness on the lips. Overall, though, it's quite smooth once the product is applied, and it does leave a very high shine finish. And so if you are looking for that kind of look, I think actually out of everything that I'm talking about today, this is definitely the one that gives you the highest shine and the most impact. I would say the packaging also for this is a bit more luxurious than for the liquid lipstick product. This has a little bit more weight to it, and I think the glossiness also gives it a little bit more of a luxe vibe. But on the whole, really enjoy both of these Coconut products just for different occasions. So next up, we have two lippies from Gucci. So on the one hand, we have their Shine lipstick. This is the Rouge de Beauté Brilliant, and they met in Argentina. So this is sort of a skinny, very hydrating lipstick formula, a little bit more sheer than the other one. So you can see on initial swatch, it's definitely not full pigmentation, but this can be built up for greater pigmentation as well. It has a bit of shine to it, but definitely nowhere close to the Coconut. This is sort of like, kind of like a lip balm lipstick hybrid. I find that this is very easygoing, very easy to wear. Because it has that sheerness, you can just pop it on without thinking. It has pretty good staying power considering how hydrating it is, and it just looks and feels really nice on the skin. I would say the only thing I'm not a huge fan of with this is it does have a pretty strong fragrance. It's a very nice, luxurious perfume, but definitely kind of hits you in the face while you're applying and definitely lingers for a little bit. One thing I really love about the Coconut is that it doesn't have any of those fragrances in it. But the packaging for this is also just really beautiful. I bought this shade in particular because I just loved this packaging and I have no regrets. I think it is really lovely. And this shade is also just such a pretty peachy coral shade that's perfect for the summertime. Next is the Gucci Satin lipstick. I have this in the shade Janet Rust, which is a beautiful warm toned red. And as you can see, it is full pigment on one swatch, much more satin in finish, whereas the previous one had more shine to it. And this is one of my go-to red lipsticks if I want something that is really full pigmentation and has good lasting power. So compared to, say, like the Coconut Red Berry, this being like a satin lipstick definitely stays on and looks more perfected for a longer period of time. This is my go-to for sort of like holiday parties where you want that red lip look, but you also want it to last for the whole night. And I also just really love this packaging. I think this is so beautiful. Like, I don't know if the camera really picks it up fully. It has that gorgeous engraved detailing on it as well. So overall, just a really lovely experience applying this, and the longevity and how it makes my lips look and feel is just really top notch. So next up we have Chantecaille Lip Cheeks. So as you can see, I have a bunch of these because it's one of my top formulas. I guess we're now in the top 5, so you know these are ones that I'm really loving. So let me give you guys some swatches. This one is Crocus. And these are probably the sheerest, or one of the sheerest formulas that are on today's list, but you can probably see just how hydrating that is. So again, I have very dry lips, and so I'm always willing to sacrifice some pigmentation for hydration. And I didn't like love these initially off the bat. Initially off the bat, I was like, okay, you know, it's a lip balm product, it's decent. But over time, these have just really grown on me. I love the versatility of these in terms of either having them just as a sheer wash, especially on no makeup days, or really building them up to have them at a higher opacity. So this shade is Wild Poppy, and this is Kaya Lily. This is like probably my most used one for like going to work. It's just a perfect My Lips But Better for that. And then I also really love their limited edition packaging, like this one with the sea turtle on it. This is the shade Ginger Lily, and this gorgeous red juniper one with the dragon motif. This one's actually a bit higher pigmentation, so you can see all of those over there. But I find that these have surprisingly good lasting power considering they are relatively sheer balms. They just feel really nice on the skin, and they have like this fairly subtle vanilla flavor that I find to be quite pleasant, unlike some of the other flavors in luxury products. The packaging is really fun and collectible, and I just find that these are one of my most used lip products because they're just so easy to slap on, and especially if you're not wearing makeup, I think it's actually better to have like a sheer product because you don't have to worry so much about, you know, making sure it's like within your lip lines and such and checking it throughout the day. So the Lip Chics have really grown on me and kind of risen over time to be one of my favorite lip products. Next up, we have a true luxury formula. So this is the Bond No. 9 lipstick. This beauty comes out like this, and I think I have this in the shade Central Park. It doesn't really have a shade name on it, but you can see this is very pigmented on swatch. This is a satin lipstick, but probably has the greatest lasting power of any of the formulas that I'm talking about today. So when I first bought this, I was really on the fence because this is over $100. So I think this might be the most expensive of the lipsticks that I'm talking about today. And the packaging is really beautiful, but I had never really heard about Bond No. 9 for anything else. I'm not really like a big fragrance buff. And so I was like, are they really good at making lipstick? But I was super blown away by this formula because it wasn't just like, you know, pretty packaging and nice shades. This actually has really remarkable lasting power. So it has like the lasting power of more like a matte lipstick, but the feel and comfort of a satin lipstick. And it feels very comfortable on the lips while not necessarily looking super glossy or having like any, you know, properties of a gloss in terms of being really easy to remove or to transfer. I mean, it's definitely not transfer proof, but if you're someone who has really dry lips but really wants that kind of long-lasting luxury formula, then I think this is a really great lipstick to look into. Also, the packaging is just, you know, super nice as well. Like, I would never put this in my handbag because I'd be worried about damaging it, but if you keep this on your vanity, it is really nice. So next up, we have the Suqqu Moisture Glaze formula. So these lippies have just been expanding in my collection because every time I have a chance to pick up more of them, I do. I absolutely love this formula. I know I've said, you know, throughout this video, this is like the most or one of the most that I've used, but this is probably the singular most commonly used formula in my collection right now. I just find this to be the most comfortable hydrating formula on my lips and kind of the perfect blend of pigmentation, comfort, and performance. So let me give you guys some swatches. So as you can see, this is relatively sheer on first swipe, but you can definitely build it up to get some more pigmentation. I would say overall it's quite similar to the Lip Chics in terms of having that balmy texture, but it is a lot longer lasting. It kind of forms like a film around your lips, not in a bad way at all, but in a way that just makes the product more long lasting and less likely to kind of move around your lips compared to the Lip Chics or other comforting lipstick formulas. And you can see as well, it does just have a really high level of shine. Like, I know it's kind of maybe hard to see here versus here, but definitely these have a higher shine property to them. And side note, this shade, which is shade 3, is by far my favorite and the one that kind of started my obsession with this product. I also really love the shades that these come in. So this one, for example, which is Hana Oboro, is such a unique, almost grayish mauve shade that, especially for this kind of more sheer formula, I feel like is pretty hard to come by. The packaging also is quite nice. These are refillable and do look quite chic, even though they don't have any like special animals or anything on them. And I do find that even though these are sheer, like especially the deeper ones, if you build up, will give you more of that full pigment look on the face. And so overall, I've just been loving these so much because I feel like they're perfect for every sort of occasion. You can either wear them sheer just every day, basically the same as a lip balm. You don't need a mirror to apply them. They're just very, very fuss-free. But even on days when I'm doing like a full glam look or doing a video, I find that this is actually perfect as well because built up, they give a really nice payoff. And in terms of this type of formula of like a really hydrating, balmy sort of lipstick, this is the one that I found to kind of last the longest and perform the best throughout the day. So I love this formula, can't say enough good things about it, and would highly, highly recommend it if you are someone who likes hydrating lip balm lipstick formulas. So we're almost done with this video. We just have 2 more lip formulas to go through. So the second to last one is the Dries Van Noten lipsticks. So I have one of these, Bad Pink, which is in their sheer formula. You can see that even though it's sheer, it's still actually quite pigmented on initial application and can definitely be built up as well. And then the other one here is in their Satin formula. This is one of their orange shades. I'll have all the shade names down below in case you're curious. So I was on the fence about these lipsticks for a while because they're very expensive. Like you buy the refillable packaging and the lip components separately, and together they are a pretty penny. But I do find them just gorgeous. This is some of the most beautiful lipstick packaging to me. Now, it's not as heavy and luxurious as the top pick that I have for today, but these are pretty high up there, I would say. And the formulation itself really stands out too. So when I first got these, I got them primarily for the packaging, but what really sold me was the formula. So these are some of the most long-lasting satin or sheer lipsticks that I've ever tried. And they not only last a long time, they wear really, really well. And I would say that's kind of the biggest distinguishing factor between this formula and any of the other formulas I talked about today, with the exception of the Bond number 9. This is the overall like best wearing one. But if you want something that is a little bit more comfortable or more shiny on the lips, I think these are that perfect balance of being very long lasting, fading really well. So you're not going to have as much of that butthole lip effect as time goes. I feel like when it fades, it still looks pretty nice and kind of fades very gradually. And so there's less of that sort of issue. But yet these are true sheer / satin lipsticks. They do give you that hydrated look. And they have these really fun, bright colors as well. When I first got these colors, I was a little worried they'd be too fun or bright for me, but these have actually been my go-tos for the summer. Like whenever I'm doing a warm toned look, I go in with this bright orange, and whenever I go in with a cool toned look, I have this bright pink. So they're surprisingly flattering, even though these colors might be a bit intimidating initially. I would say the only thing I don't love about these is the fragrance is a little bit strong, so it does kind of linger when you first apply it. It eventually dissipates, but you know, I'm not a huge fan of fragrance, so that's the one con with these. But on the whole, I've been really impressed with these. It's not just the luxury packaging and how pretty these look. They actually do have a really unique and lovely formula. So now we have the final lipstick, which is the Guerlain lipstick. I have their satin shade in Les Roses Essentiel. This is actually the shade that I have on my lips today as well, in case any of you were curious or wanted to guess. So here you have that down here. It is fully pigmented on one swatch. So that is one difference between this and the Dries Van Noten. It's much more pigmented initially, though the Dries Van Noten can be built up. And the other major difference between the two that landed this one in the top spot is the packaging. So I am a huge sucker for this packaging. It is so gorgeous. This is refillable packaging. You can also personalize it. I have this one engraved. It says La Vie en Rose inside on this mirror. So I actually went back and forth quite a bit between this one and the Dries Van Noten for the top spot. I would say on the whole, I think the Dries Van Noten formula is a little bit more impressive than the Guerlain, but the Guerlain packaging is just a lot more impressive to me, and it also has a broader shade range. And so I ultimately picked this one because I feel like it more so epitomizes what I would be looking for luxury lipstick. I've also found since buying this, I have often been picking this one over Bad Pink, even though they're actually quite similar in terms of how they look on the lips. I would say the only thing that I don't like about this formula is similar to the Dries Van Noten. It does have a pretty strong perfumey fragrance when you first put it on. It does fade, so it doesn't bother me that much, but that's the one thing I would note. Also, I would say in terms of how it wears, the Dries Van Noten wears a bit better. Like the Dries Van Noten, I think, is really in a category of its own in terms of how beautifully it wears. This one wears well, but just not like, you know, the best. But in terms of the luxury experience, I would just put this one on top. Now, I know this packaging is a little bit controversial because they recently changed it, and so folks that had the previous version no longer can mix and match their lipsticks. Personally, I don't have that issue because this is the first and only one that I have from Guerlain, and I picked this up after their change in packaging. So I did want to caveat that, like, I'm not condoning what they're doing there, but it just personally hasn't affected me, and so it hasn't impacted how I see this lipstick or this formula. On the whole, though, I have really been loving this ever since picking it up, and I'm really excited to expand my collection of Guerlain lipsticks. So those are all of the formulas that ended up on my top list of luxury lip products. If you guys have questions about any of these, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. I would also love to hear if you have any formulas that you would recommend, since I'm pretty into lip products at this point, and so I'm always interested in trying new ones as well. I have right now the Clé de Peau holiday lipstick on my wish list, so let me know if you guys would be interested in that. I keep going back and forth about what to pick up from that collection, but it's really beautiful, so I'm super excited for that. So that's it for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!